Welcome to A Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser. Ron Courser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is your Course to Retirement. Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial future, navigating the complex financial and economic world. He is CFP, Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser, President and founder of Ron Courser and Associates. Ron, always a pleasure. Welcome back in.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning to everybody listening to today's program. We're just a few days away from good old St. Patrick's Day. And that's always cause for celebration among certain people in our industry and also in our society. And it always gets down to luck, the luck of the Irish. I have my best friend is a graduate of Notre Dame, and he actually used to work in the press box. And we joke a lot because he loved it when he'd invite me to go see University of Michigan play at Notre Dame. And the reason he liked to give me a free ticket is because every time I went, Michigan lost. And he kept saying, I want you to come to every game because you're good luck. And I finally said, you know what? I can't stand this anymore. I'm not going to do this. So I guess you could say luck has some things to do with what's going on. But when I look back at those games, I always come to the conclusion that, both teams are well prepared. And Notre Dame was well prepared. And the reason it kind of went down into the fourth quarter and it seemed to get lucky was simply because they had prepared properly. They were ready for the moment. And so it really was the luck of the Irish or, the touchdown Jesus that they have over there. Although I will say one thing, there was a field goal that they kicked once that really aggravated me because the wind died down and everything else happened. It was perfect. But other than that, luck always goes to the ones who are well prepared. Yeah. Now, with the exception of perhaps you bought the Powerball ticket, and I'll tell another story. It's really a sad story, but it's true. In 1984, I was in a different industry, and a friend of mine, and I don't gamble. It's not my nature to gamble. A friend of mine asked me to buy some Powerball tickets in the state of Illinois because it was up to like $30 million, which at that time was the biggest raffle Powerball in the history of our country. So I bought him $10 worth of tickets. I sent it to him. And the people who won the raffle were just your basic folks. There was nothing sophisticated. They were just solid, good people. And they won this $30 million after they took some money out for tax. And the father and the mother and the son-in-law all worked at the same company. They were basically blue-collar workers, good folks. And that was quite a windfall. And about 3 years later, I was flying through Chicago and I picked up a newspaper. And on the front page of the Chicago Times was the story that this couple that had this family really that had won all that money was filing for bankruptcy. So on one hand, yeah, they bought a ticket and they won, but they filed for bankruptcy. And we seem to hear those stories. And the real problem with that is that, yeah, there was a plan in place. And the plan was, wow, we got more money we could ever spend. Let's spend it. And there was unfortunately, I think there was nobody to help these folks kind of learn about money. I mean, think about this, Peter. You have $10 million sitting in the bank right now. We talk about that a lot. So if you won $30 million, that wouldn't be a big deal. But, for somebody that doesn't have money, all of a sudden to come into money, it's not as easy as people think it is. I mean, it's not like, wow, now we got it made. Because now you have a whole new dynamic that says, I got all this money. I've never had this kind of money before. What in the world am I going to do?
Well, there's a whole show, a series, Ron, where they chronicle lottery winners. And the name of the show is The Lottery Ruined My Life. Similarly, in professional sports, you hear a lot of stories about these young athletes that come into a lot of money very quickly. And then after what is a short, by comparison, professional career in sports, they get beat up, they get banged up. Their careers aren't all that long. They make a great deal of money while they're there. But then afterwards, you hear story after story about these athletes that have gone broke, whether they're subject to maybe family members taking advantage of them, or some bad business dealings, or what have you. For whatever reason, they go through all that money and then they're left penniless. In some cases, some very successful athletes have suffered that fate. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that the sudden windfall of money doesn't well prepare us for how to handle that money. And Ron, I know you've even talked about cases where you've seen that with parents that worked very hard to amass a sizable amount of assets and wealth, and then it gets transferred onto the kids, and the kids end up blowing it in about 16 months. So whatever the case is, that luck, let's call it, we say we've lucked into a good career, a lottery winning, a windfall of some type. Ultimately, a lot of times we are not prepared for that luck and that money.
And it's a function of a couple things. It's a function of life experience. It's a function of training, perhaps. It's also a function of having somebody maybe put up some guardrails. I like to use that analogy in a bowling alley. Put up some guardrails. There's a lot of stories we have, but I have seen instances where I've learned that children who've inherited a lot of money, and a lot is a relative concept, right? It can be anywhere from $20 to 20 million bucks. It has not ended well. And part of it gets back to, yes, the person who inherited the money, but there's also an idea that there should have been better planning. There really should have been. If there was an outside, every family probably has what we call the prodigal child. I know. I joke with people and say, I'm the only one in all of Michigan that comes from a dysfunctional family. And I'm good with that because I love my family. But there's been some instances where some of the kids or grandkids have kind of veered off course. And you have to be very careful when you plan a legacy for that. There's ways to protect children and grandchildren, and there's ways to make sure that your legacy goes on. So it's not always luck. It always comes to, if you're prepared, you have a better opportunity to weather whatever's coming down the road than if you're not prepared. I go back to the state of Michigan. February came in. I know we're looking at March. February came in, nothing but snow and ugly. February is the worst month of the year. February has 51 days in it. I'm convinced of that. It's the longest month in the entire year for me. And when we're in Michigan, we're prepared for winter. We get prepared for it every year. It doesn't matter if it's a mild winter or heavy winter. Those of us who prepare for the lights out end of the world winter always muddle through somehow successfully with whatever's come down the road. And that analogy really works with what we call investment and retirement planning. The more planning put in place, the more planning that's based on, oh my goodness, let's plan for the zombie apocalypse. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But if we plan for that and it doesn't happen, it's not a bad thing at all. We just survive. But if it does happen and we plan for it, we're going to get through that too. So let's talk a lot about luck versus planning in today's program. And it's really more than, I think the luckiest people in the world are the ones who have done the most planning. I really do.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I think that unfortunately there is a large part of the American public that is sort of planning on luck for things to just work out okay into their future. And I believe it was Dirty Harry who said, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky? And just with the way that we are basing everything on the hope that taxes are lower in the future, the hope that markets always rise, well, do you feel lucky? And that's not the basis for a solid financial plan. I think, I feel, I believe is all speculation. And there's a lot of air quotes here for the folks just listening on radio, financial plans that truly are just projections or speculation or hypothetical forecasts for what may occur in the future. Not a lot of certainty there, Ron. And so I guess talking about luck, that's one of the areas where we really need to examine the plans that we have and say, well, how much of this is concrete can I rely on? And how much of this is actually based on just things working out in my favor and having good luck along the way? And I know that the plans that you put together there at Ron Corser and Associates, the course to retirement plans, you really try to take luck out of the equation. In fact, you sort of are a believer in Murphy's Law. You include an element of bad luck happening in the planning process so that we are prepared if those things happen. Like you say, the winters in Michigan, we prepare for those seasons in our financial forecast and plan for the future and make sure that we are prepared if those happen. And ladies and gentlemen, you need to have a plan like that. Rather than rose-colored glasses, something that's realistic and looks at the potential for bad luck occurring in the future and still works out to where everything is okay for you. And that's really what the course to retirement plan is all about. If you'd like to get that in your hands, if you'd like to go through that planning process, pick up the phone and give Ron Corser and Associates a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or you can go online, roncorser.com. So from all of that, Ron, I would surmise that you don't believe that it's better to be lucky than good. You think it's better to be good and have that plan and be disciplined rather than just luck into retirement.
Well, I joke sometimes with clients and I ask them if they've heard of Murphy's Law, and most people have. And then I ask them, have you ever heard of O'Toole's Law? People say no. And I said, O'Toole's Law states that Murphy's Law is optimistic. So we always plan for O'Toole. And it's kind of a fun way to look at it. But let's just back up for a moment and think about this. I think one of the ways that you know you're relying on luck is if your financial advisor says to you something in this way, or your mind is set up if you're doing your own investing. Well, the markets have gone up an average of 7.1% over the last 110 years. So if I plan on the markets going up 7.1% a year, I should be able to take 4% out of my life savings and I'll be okay and I'm never going to have a problem. If that's the basis for your planning, or that's the basis of your thinking process when it comes to thinking about planning, be very careful. Here's why. It's really hard to find in the last 110 years, a single year where the market went up exactly 7.1%. That's an average. That's all it is. And what I tell people, there are no average people out there listening to today's program or listening or being investors. Nobody's average. You know, it goes back way back in the world, back in the late 60s, early 70s. This is another story, I guess. The U.S. Army tried to figure out, in terms of being more cost effective when it came to uniforms, what is an average soldier? So they created a uniform. Now, I was in the military. And when you were first there and you go through that long line, they just kind of they say, you know, what's your height, what's your weight, what's this? And they give you a uniform or two. Well, they thought it would be a whole lot more cost effective if they could come up with an average uniform and pass that out. So they actually did that. They created an average uniform for the average soldier. The big problem was it didn't fit anybody. There was no average soldiers out there. But, you know, all the statistics, all the numbers said they should work. And that's the problem with trying to figure out, can I rely on that 7.1%, that 7% rate of return on the market averagely, and take out 4%? If there's no average years, and we look back from 2000 to 2010, that was a flat year. What that simply means is on the 1st of January, 2000, if you compare it to the 31st of December, 2010, the market really didn't make any progress. So if you retired on January 1st, 2000, and you were assuming that the markets would go up 7%, and you haven't made any changes, chances are you're in deep trouble unless you had so much saved and you had other sources of income. And that's the key. And we're going to talk about that in today's program. The real key to dealing with this market volatility and everything is to have enough income in retirement to retire. Unless you have enough income from pensions, Social Security and stuff to live a good life, maybe you got away with that average, that 7% thing. But most people don't have that going. His lifestyle doesn't allow for that. So one of the things we're going to spend some time on is what do you do? How do you create an income plan for yourself so that doesn't rely on luck. How do you do that? We can help people do that. And if you want to know more and understand, everybody listening to today's program, you're unique. God created you uniquely. There's nobody else like you in the whole world. So there's nothing that says one size fits all should work. So give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We can help you develop a plan that's tailored to you, to what you want to accomplish when you get to that thing called retirement. That'll make sure, to the best of all of our abilities, that you have enough income in retirement to always stay retired. Because one of the most terrible things you could ever experience is to be retired for 4 or 5 years and experience a large loss in the market. And all of a sudden, you either have to adjust your lifestyle dramatically, or B, you got to go back to work. Those two things are unacceptable when it comes to retirement planning. So what's the key to all of this? And we're going to focus a little bit on it. It's to create a plan so that you have enough income in retirement to retire. And you need to know that before you retire. That's the purpose of good, effective planning, is how do I plan today? If I'm going to retire 10 years from now, how do I plan so that I know I'm going to have enough income in retirement to retire? We always pick on you, and you're a very good sport about this, Peter, but Peter has $10 million. And he, I asked him a long time ago, I said, well, that's really neat. And you want to retire? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, how much income do you need every year to maintain your lifestyle? And Peter, being very, very, very kind about the whole thing and modest, said, well, I need $1 million a year to support my lifestyle because my wife needs that. And I said, Peter, I got really bad news for you. You have 10 million, but you're spending $1 million in retirement. You can't retire. You don't have enough income in retirement to maintain your lifestyle. And that's the key to good planning. Let's reverse this just for a moment. Most of us have been trained to do, I got to have a lump sum. I got to have $10 million like Peter. No, what you really need is to make sure you know two things: how much it costs you every month to maintain your lifestyle. How much money income do you need every month to come in? And does your plan provide that without saying, oh my goodness, if the market goes through an extended period of time where there's no growth, I'm going to be in trouble. So it's income and retirement that's most important to everybody. And it's the best way I've ever found in 26 years in this business to kind of take away the market risk part and all those other risks, longevity risks that we've talked about, and to minimize the impact on the retirement. So if you want to know how to build a retirement plan that'll last, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or give us a call and just say, Ron, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I got a couple questions. Be more than happy to take your questions, no obligation, to give you the help you need to make really good financial decisions for yourself and your family. So that's 616-301-2581.
Certainly worth the call, ladies and gentlemen. Get a snapshot of where you are currently, discuss your goals, put those in writing, and then from a certified financial planner with the help of a CFP, get recommendations on the steps that you should be taking in order to achieve those goals, eliminating the luck aspect and putting it truly in planning, because luck favors the well-prepared. Having that plan, that's how you prepare well. And Ron Corser, CFP, can help you with that. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, the way I look at it, we don't expect to eat just one salad or go to the gym one time and suddenly be in great shape. You need to eat right and exercise your whole life and do all of the things to stay in shape. And then later on in years, you say, I was really lucky to remain healthy over the course of my lifetime. And you're absolutely right. But all of those things that you did helped that luck. I guess the same could be said with like car maintenance, right? We fill the car up with gas. We do regular oil changes, regular tune-ups and all of those things. And the car hits 250,000, 300,000 miles. And you say, wow, I was really lucky that this car lasted this long. And you are right. But all of those things that you did to maintain it helped to improve that luck. And that's what the planning process really is. That is the regular routines, the maintenance that we need to do in our financial life in order to increase the likelihood that we end up lucky.
It's a great analogy when it comes to the car thing. as a young man, I used to be able to do a lot of work on my cars because you could lift up the hood, right? And you could look at the engine and you could see the ground.
Yeah.
You can't do that now anymore.
No, you cannot.
I don't work on my cars at all. I just take them into the dealership and say, please fix it, make it go.
It's all computers these days.
It is. But one of the things, the car I own, and I'm not bragging, it's a 2012. I really like that car. I mean, I really, really like it. Now, the last couple of years, I've had to put a little extra money in it because of the mileage I have on it. But when I look at it, I think, I really like this. It gets me to where I want to go. It's comfortable. It's good on my back. That's one of the reasons I never want to get rid of it. For some reason, the seat fits really good, and I don't end up with pain when I drive. But it does take a little time. It does take a little bit of effort. It does take a little bit of understanding. I don't have to know how a car works. I just have to know people who know how it works. That's what makes it really good for me when keeping my car for a long period of time. I think I got another 10 years left in my car if I do it right. So it's not so much that you have to know the details of everything, although there are people like that. It's that you have to know people who know things. For example, we're part of the Ed Slott IRA group. Some people have heard of Ed Slott, some haven't. But in our industry, two things about Ed. Number one, on the TV programs, the public TV, he's the number one fundraiser because he does retirement planning seminars on TV. Number two, he's the big 900-pound gorilla in financial services when it comes to helping us with IRAs and taking money out of the tax-deferred accounts. I don't have to know everything. It's really amazing. I'm part of his elite advisor. I've been part of this program for, my goodness, I don't know, 15 years, maybe more. I don't have to know everything. I have to know somebody who knows everything. And that's the Ed Slott group. So there's not a single problem that somebody can come to us and say, I don't understand what I need to do, or I don't understand the problem. I don't understand how to fix it. We have access to people who are just smarter than anything, who know all the rules and regulations about tax deferred accounts. We can go to them and get the right answer. I mean, I've put people on speakerphone talking directly to Ed Slott and said, here's the situation. What's the solution? And they generally have the solution right at the tip of their tongue. So it's just knowing people who have the answers. And that's one of the strengths of our firm, I think. We have a lot of advisory people outside of the immediate area of our firm that can help with specific things, either tax issues, IRA issues, tax deferred accounts, 401k kinds of things. We can go to people who are specialists in these very small but very important areas and provide a wealth of information to help people understand how to make things better for themselves in retirement, how to find answers to critical questions, particularly tax questions, and to make sure that at the end of our doing this, what happens is that you have a plan that makes sense to you, that you can follow, that will give you what you need in terms of retirement income. And it's flexible enough to make adjustments. So I joke with people and I say, well, we always have to have flexibility in the plan, because if you wake up one morning and you see a zombie in your backyard, it may be time to make some changes. And so we're able to do that a little bit too. So, the retirement planning that we do at our firm, I think is effective because it's based on one simple idea. Tell us how much money you need in retirement. Let us help you build a retirement income plan that'll give you what you want. Give you what you want when markets are good, give you what you want when markets are bad, give you what you want when taxation goes up, when taxation goes down, when all those things happen. Give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, Ron Corser Associates. Just Google us and we'll pop up and say, I need to talk to somebody, or here's my question, and we'll help you. It's our job to help people. I think we're reasonably good at it. So let us help you. Give us a call, 616-301-2581.
A team of qualified professionals there at Ron Corser and Associates, helping look after the wealth and the health. Ron's wife, Nancy, taking care of the health concerns, Medicare, how do you file, when do you file, what plan do you need? Ron and his team, as well as associate advisor Nolan Gosley, taking care of the wealth. How do you plan? How do you avoid just basing your financial future on luck? We think the market's always going to go up. Well, guess what? There are specific times where it has not. We don't want to risk our financial future to the bad luck of rolling into one of those times or retiring into one of those times. You've got to have that plan in order to improve your outlook, improve your outcome, improve your chances that even bad luck occurring does not derail your financial future. Pick up the phone, request the time to talk with the team, get that course to retirement plan in your hands, a snapshot of where you are, a documented description of your goals, and then the steps, the timeline, the action items that you should be taking in order to make those goals reality and to achieve and accomplish those goals. Again, the number 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron Corser and his team standing by. They'd love to hear from you. By the way, no cost, no obligation, no downside to placing this call. You don't need to meet in person. They have the capabilities of doing these virtual reviews, as we've all come much more comfortable with over the past year. For your safety, for your convenience, they can be conducted that way, but always love to talk with people who are serious about their planning and their financial future, want to make well-informed, well-thought-through decisions and choices. If that's you, if you don't want to leave things up to timing the market, they say timing is everything, but every investor also knows that you can't accurately time the market 100% of the time. Makes it difficult, if not impossible, to know when to time your retirement if you don't have that plan. So pick up the phone, give Ron Corser and Associates a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We'll come back. We'll continue our discussion of luck in planning and why you shouldn't rely on luck, but we'll also talk about some commonly held and believed financial myths and misconceptions and how to plan to avoid those. So don't go anywhere. Plenty more to come on your course to retirement, but a great opportunity for you to place that call now, 616-301-2581. We'll be back with more with Ron Corser in just a moment. And welcome back to the program. This is your course to retirement. We are here with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner, CFP, Ron Corser. We are talking about how you can have a plan for your financial future. That course to retirement plan, you can get that in your hands. Simple, concise, consolidated language, easy to understand steps that you can take in order to achieve your financial goals. If you'd like that plan, pick up the phone now. No cost, no obligation. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And with St. Patrick's Day right around the corner next week, talking today about luck versus planning and why you should not simply base your financial future on luck. You should have a plan. And while we're talking about mythical creatures and the leprechauns there and how lucky they are supposed to be, Ron talking about some other myths. These maybe not so lucky. These are financial myths that planning is commonly based on that maybe we should question or examine very carefully to see whether we are relying on these for our financial future.
Yeah, we've touched on some of them. I'm going to go through them again because I think it's important that everybody kind of focus in on these things. And the number one myth that we talk about is the markets always go up. How do people come to say that in my industry? Well, they take a long look over the history. Go back 110 years. The market's gone up 7.1% averagely every year. So on a long time horizon, the market always goes up. The problem is I don't know anybody that's been retired for 110 years, nor do I know anybody who assumes that they're going to be in retirement for 110 years. So the markets go up, the markets go down, the markets giveth and the markets taketh away. How do we deal with this? Well, it's not easy and simple, but it's pretty clear. You deal with it first and foremost by making up your mind that you're not going to go on the roller coaster of the markets. I'm not saying don't invest in the markets. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying when it comes to your retirement planning, you should do exactly what you've done when it came to finding employment before you retired. What did you do then? You went out and you interviewed for jobs and you got a good job and it was paying you enough. It was paying you everything you needed to pay all your bills and set some money aside for retirement. And you were good at your job. Sometimes you may not have liked it on certain days, but you know, that goes with everybody. I tell people I really like what I do 4 out of 5 days a week. And every once in a while, I have a couple fifth days that, man, I just say, you know what? I got to get out of this or do something.
Yeah, I tell my son, Ron, that if you find something you love, to pursue that as a career. And I also tell him that they say that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and that is absolutely false. There will still be days that you dislike even the thing that you love to do.
Amen to that. Absolutely. You know, some days I come to work and I think, well, this is going to be a great day. I know it is because I looked at the schedule. I'm going to meet nice people. And it just starts. And about halfway through the morning, I think I got to start all over again. I need to redo this. But, you know, you got to live with what you have.
Yeah. Well, Ron, to your point that the market does not always go up, I've got a spreadsheet on my screen that I'm looking at, which shows some periods of market decline that have happened in the past. 1973 to 1975, the market lost 48%, nearly half of its value. 1980, it lost 17%. 1981 through 82, there was a 27% decline. The early 90s, we hit a little bit of a snag recession. There was a 20% decline. The early 2000s, the dot-com bubble burst. That was really a 3-year slide. It declined nearly 49%. And then, of course, the Great Recession, 2007, 2008, a 57% decline. You spoke about a roller coaster. That certainly feels a little bit like a roller coaster to me and kind of proves that the market doesn't always go up. And Ron, I know you've talked about if you retired into one of those periods and you were simultaneously needing to pull out money, that could really kind of be catastrophic for the long-term retirement projections thereafter.
Well, that's why trying to build a retirement plan on the idea that the markets always go up and you can weather the storm is really a scary thing to do. You know, unless you have $50 million and you only need $30,000 a year to live on, you need to be concerned about volatility in the market. You really do. And how do you build around it? I know I'm just I'm not beating a dead horse, but I'm encouraging a live horse here to run faster. How do you do that? You first create an income plan in retirement. Where are you going to get protected income to make sure you have everything you need every month to pay your bills and maintain your lifestyle? It comes from Social Security, pensions, and then you create some income ideas out of your life savings that don't require the market to always go up, because the market is going to give and take, and it's not going to, the market doesn't play favorites on anybody. It treats everybody equally. And if you're trusting in the market, I hope you're prepared for some of the downsides. So yeah, it's important to stay in the market for a portion of your life savings, but it's also important to, you know, remember that you have to be somewhat careful and just not, it's not like shooting dice at the casino. So the second one is, it gets back to the average market rate of return. Some people think it always goes up 7, some 10. Average returns are nothing more than somebody who put a little statistics together, did some division and multiplication, and came up with a number. It absolutely has nothing to do with what somebody needs in retirement. You know, think about this, Peter. You have $10 million. If you ever get your life under control, and let's say you only need $50,000 a year to live on, you don't have to be as concerned about the market as maybe somebody who has $500,000 and needs $50,000 a year to live on. So a lot of it just depends on what you're going to, you know, that John Wayne, I'm a big fan of John Wayne. And I remember, and maybe those listening to this program, you remember the movie McClintock. What a great movie. Him and Maureen O'Hara, in one of the scenes where he's kind of in the bag and he's falling down the stairs and his cleaning lady's in his lap and Maureen O'Hara's at the top of the stairs, and he looks at her and he said, "Kate, are you going to believe what your eyes see or what I tell you?" And that's about what it is. Are you going to believe what you see or what somebody tells you? And you should believe what you see. You know that markets have volatility in them, so you deal with that. And you deal with the idea that you need cash flow. So if anybody's interested in really taking a hard look as to how to create an income plan in retirement that will weather the storm, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We can help you with that. And not only do we just say we can help you, we can show you how it works. We can show you that, in fact, yeah, if the market corrects, you're still going to have the income coming in. You're not going to have to worry about, oh my goodness, am I going to have to go back to work? Am I going to have to make a change? Or, you know, one of these days, if the COVID ever really goes away, can I take that trip next winter to Florida and just hang out and not have to shovel snow anymore? You can have options as long as you have money. It's kind of they're kind of tied together a little bit. So it's important to have the options, but it's also important to know before retirement that you're going to be okay. You're going to have the income you need to live on.
Well, again,
so give us a call at 616-301-2581, and we can help you with that. It's important.
Not basing our financial future on luck, not basing it on myths that we cannot count on reliably, that the market always goes up. Obviously, one of those financial myths. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the other saying, just wait, the market always comes back. Well, if it always goes up, where's it got to come back from ever? It does go up over time, but as you said, Ron, we can't reliably count on that working in the time that we need it to. So we need to sort of have a backup plan there. Another big one is the average market rate of return. Ron, you've blown holes in that one. We cannot count on average market rates of return to happen consistently. And if you want to get into the math of that, folks, it's kind of eye-opening. Numbers not translating real well over radio. Give Ron a call and he'll show you some scenarios where you could have an average 10% rate of return and end up with less money in that same period of time. It's kind of remarkable how that works. But Ron, another big one is the amount of cash flow that we can generate in retirement. And a lot of people say, well, if the market has averaged, or if my portfolio has averaged 7 or 8% returns, I ought to be able to take out 4% cash flow. And that's sort of been a premise that a lot of financial projections have been based on over the last 30 years. But even that is not reliable, and it's what we're going to include in our category of financial myths.
You know, what's interesting is there's some plans, and I've seen them, that have been built on a dividend investment strategy of living off of dividends. Everybody wants to say, well, if I can get 7 or 10, I should be able to scrape off 4% and be okay. And I'll just buy a bunch of dividend paying stocks. And it's not a bad strategy for a portion of your money. And I'll live off of dividends. So let's go back in history and kind of think this through. And I know 2008 seems like millions of years ago, but it proves something very real, that relying on dividend paying stocks sometimes doesn't work as well. What do I mean by that? General Electric, GE, was one of those dividend paying stocks that had paid dividends increasing for the last 344 years, maybe longer, I don't know. And everybody it was a key holding in everybody's retirement plan. And then 2008 hit, and what happened? They stopped paying dividends for a while. The stock price absolutely was devastated. They started paying some dividends, and they stopped, and they started, and they stopped. The same thing with General Motors. I'm from Detroit. I was raised at a time where the thought was, man, if a man could get into GM and do his 30 and out, he'd have it made. And when I came up to Grand Rapids in 1977, I heard about another company that said, man, if a guy could get into Steelcase and do his 30 and out, he'd have it made. I didn't know at that time Steelcase from suitcase, but I heard people talking about it like that. So take a look at those companies. They've struggled. General Motors actually went out of business. They had to reorganize through bankruptcy. So having saved, my whole strategy is based on great dividend paying stocks. Understand that dividends are not guaranteed. They're hoped for. And as long as the companies have cash flow, and as long as companies can keep that thing going, they're probably going to. But it doesn't mean that because 2 years ago it paid 6% and today it's paying 3%. You know, there's a lot of fluctuation in there. So just maintaining the idea that I can just do one strategy, dividend strategy, I'm going to be fine. A really good retirement strategy has a lot of different parts to it, parts that work together that provide cash flow from a lot of different directions and a lot of different things, so that every month you have all the money you need from Social Security, pensions, investment income, dividend paying stocks, annuity income, things like that. Every month you have that money in your checkbook on the first of the month to pay your bills. So if you want to have a plan that'll help you, give you peace of mind, really, that knowing on the first of every month you're going to have the money you need to pay your bills. Now keep in mind, that's not unless you do something that's really out of character, but you'll have all the money you need every month. Give us a call. We can create a plan like that for you. Not only is it a plan that has the hope and dreams you have built into it, but we'll show you in black and white where all the money's coming from, where all the money's going to be every month that you can count on. That's going to be there where the markets go up or down or sideways. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We'll help create a plan like that that fits you and fits you well to give you what you need, the income and retirement, to have a good retirement time.
616-301-2581, the number to call, 616-301-2581. I think it's obviously important that we examine our plan for some of these assumptions. We're calling them financial myths, misconceptions and mistakes that can derail our financial progress. If your plan is based on these and they end up not holding true, where does that leave you? Your plan is only as good as the assumptions that it is based on, as the planning concepts and the fundamentals that you include in that plan. If any of those are flawed, if any of those cannot be counted on reliably, how does that impact and affect your financial future? Again, Ron Corser, not just Murphy's Law, but O'Toole's Law, is going to examine what can go wrong in your planning and talk about those in that planning process so that you are prepared with reasonable expectations and know what more to expect into and throughout your financial future, and have a plan for how to deal with those what if scenarios and unfortunate circumstances. You're better prepared in real life. That's what the planning process is all about. Pick up the phone, give them a call, get that course to retirement plans in your hand. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, I think the majority of America has made this assumption, this next one that we're going to examine, in the way that we have saved for retirement, and that's that taxes will be lower when we get to retirement. Maybe they have gone down. I mean, they have. The 38% tax rate, I believe back in the early 80s, all you had to make was about $68,000 and you were paying upper 30% taxes. Whereas today you've got to make over $600,000 to pay that much in taxes. But should we examine this myth, this assumption, and see if we still believe that this will hold true for our future from here moving forward?
That is a great question. And it always gets down to what you think. What do you think? Here's how I position it when folks come into our office, clients and new people I meet. Let me ask you a question. Here's the question. Do you think 5 to 10 years from now, what you pay in tax will be lower than it is today, about the same, or higher? Now, here's how people answer that question. If they have a really good, solid 6-figure income, they make an assumption that perhaps they're not going to need all that money to live on, so maybe they'll pay a little less. But for most people, what they answer, it's really interesting. They all think and believe that taxes are going to go up in the future, income taxes. And if we think about it, it kind of makes some sense, doesn't it? The current tax laws that we're operating under now were created in 2017. And if nothing changes, they're going to change on the 31st of December, 2024. They're going to revert back to where they were prior to 2018, 2017, which means automatically the brackets are going to go up, which means automatically middle-class people are going to pay more in tax. And one of the great misconceptions that we hear a lot in the political realm when it comes to taxes is that they're only going to tax the rich to get all this free stuff and all of that. Just vote for us and we're going to tax the rich. And I know I'm getting off base here and I've got to be careful, but think about this. If they just took the money from the 1%ers, if they just forget about taxing the 1%ers, just take their income, there's not enough money to run our country for 1 year. The big money is with the middle class. There's, depending on who you talk to, between 22 and $27 trillion in IRAs, 401ks, and things like that. That's where the big money is. And that's where taxes always ultimately come down. They come down on the middle and lower middle income people. So how do we deal with this? If you know, for example, 5 days from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you're going to be retiring into a situation where taxes may very well be a lot higher on the same dollar that you're earning or spending. Doesn't it make good sense to say, what are my options right now? What should I do in anticipation of that happening? So here's what we do, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a CPA, I'm a certified financial planner, but Nolan and I, my partner, we're smart enough to figure out on the back of the envelope kind of planning, and even working with clients, CPAs, to figure out tax strategies going forward that make sense in terms of how do we minimize how much we have to pay legally and maximize how much we have to keep. Now, if we assume that taxes are going to change, and the current administration has already said that, so I'm not speaking out of school here, what do we have to do? Well, we have a couple options, and one of the great options is to say, where can I take money now? I'm in the lowest tax environment I'm ever going to be in the rest of my life because taxes are going to go up what I pay. And how can I take that money that's going to be out of my IRA, 401k, whatever, it's going to be forever taxed, and move it into a position where it'll be never taxed again? And that's trying to create a Roth IRA strategy or Roth's conversion strategy for people. The sooner you start it, the better you're going to be. But even if you've already retired, ladies and gentlemen, and you think you're going to live another 10 to 20 years, it makes great sense to do some tax planning with your investment accounts. It makes great sense to figure out, how do I do the best for me? So one of the ways you can do that is to do some planning with an advisor who says, yeah, maybe Roth accounts are really important. And we're one of those firms. I absolutely believe it's one of the most important things people can do in retirement planning is to take a hard, deep look at how do I create Roth tax-free money. So if you're interested in that, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581.
Ron,
I personally don't believe at all that taxes are going to be lower in my future. So I plan on that.
I believe that they might just go up tomorrow. I know we've got a little bit of proactive time to plan and strategize, even if they were to pass. But I don't think it's all that far in the distant future. This is not a theoretical thing that might happen 10 or 15 years from now. And in fact, Ron, I sort of feel like that the name of the game for those that have saved and accumulated, maybe those that are within 5 years of retirement or already retired, the main purpose up until this point has been properly saving and investing and investment management for growth. But from here forward, really the top priority might just be managing your tax liability for those tax deferred dollars, those retirement accounts, keeping as much of the money as possible and being as efficient with it as possible. Might be the more important of the two, growth versus tax efficiency.
That seems to be a pretty good point, because taxes are always going to be with us, and we know that. And we have some control over how much we pay. We have absolutely no control over the tax situation in our country. That's done by the politicians and politicals, local, state, and federal, because it's not just income we pay in tax. Think about all the other tax. We pay a gas tax. We got real estate taxes. We have taxes on investments. I mean, there's at least 250 taxes in the state of Michigan that we're all subject to. So it doesn't matter which tax we think we have a handle on. We got to deal with all of them. And yeah, income tax is maybe the one that's foremost in our mind. But dealing with taxes means, how do I take my hard-earned money, my life savings, and put it in the most tax efficient way I can do it, so that as I start to draw on it going forward, I will pay the least amount in tax legally, and I will preserve and keep the most amount of money legally. It's an important decision to make. Here's a great little situation. It's a little nugget for everybody out there. You know, when you get to be 72 now, you have to do what's called a retirement or a required minimum distribution. It's a law they have to take out, because I tell people if they don't tax your IRA withdrawals and stuff like that, the government could go broke and it'll be your fault. And you don't need that kind of stress in your life. So one of the things that people can do, if you have a charitable streak in you, if you tithe to a church or you give to a charity, you know what you can do to minimize the tax on your IRA requirement distribution? When you're over 70 and a half, you can actually give that away to the charity of your choice. You can do it in terms of giving to a church and to, you know, animal shelters, whatever you want to do. And if it's a 501c3 company, you can take your required distribution and just send it to them. What's the tax advantage? Number one, you don't have to count that as taxes, as income rather, to be taxed. And number two, it qualifies as they taking the required minimum distribution. So if you were giving money away anyhow on an after-tax basis, why not do it on a before-tax basis? I'm quite sure the Lord doesn't care if it's pre-tax or after-tax. And certainly, you know, other charities don't care either where it came from. So that's another little nugget, that people already in retirement are being forced to do the required minimum distribution, because not a lot of people like doing it. And there's a certain group of people that really don't need that. So that's another way that we can help manage the tax implication. Give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Planning for income and retirement is more than just creating some sort of investment strategy, the large cap, small cap, hub cap, baseball cap, bottle cap kind of thing. It's much more involved, and we can help you do that to touch all the bases, so to speak. So give us a call, 616-301-2581.
Well, great reminder that there are some specific situational strategies out there that you got to know where to look in order to find the advantage. That's why the trained eye of a qualified, experienced professional, a certified financial planner, is so valuable in your planning efforts. And we don't want to rely on luck. We don't just luck into those opportunities. We've got a plan specifically to identify them and take advantage. And that's what the Course to Retirement plan is really all about. And this list of 7 common financial myths. If you'd like a copy of the list, if you, more importantly, would like to get your specific Course to Retirement plan, pick up the phone and give a call to Ron Courser and Associates, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can also go online, roncourser.com. A couple that we're just not going to have time to get to, but I know are important. Talks about the need for life insurance at or around the time that we retire. Do we need it? Do we not? Don't just rely on the conventional wisdom there. Examine your situation carefully and specifically. Understand the implications and ramifications. Can you rely on an investment plan to generate retirement income? Wall Street would tell you just consider the same plan, or continue the same plan rather. Maybe you should consider an alternate, or how that plan really works once you reverse the direction of money and you start relying on income. And then, Ron, another one that people believe it's just too late, or I don't have enough. Never the case. It's never too late. And you know, it's never too early to plan. You never have too much, but you never have too little either. You need to know where you are and what the next steps are to help advance your financial progress and give you the best chances possible. So all of those are some of the financial myths. Ron had a great time today talking about luck versus planning. St. Patrick's Day right around the corner, talking about a few other financial myths as well. Probably don't need to rely on finding that end of the rainbow and pot of gold for retirement.
No, and probably we're not going to find a 4-leaf clover in the middle of winter here in Michigan either. But good planning will go a long, long way to give you all the luck you need in retirement. Well, thanks for tuning in to today's program. I hope everybody has a blessed day.
a conversation with a certified financial planner can help a lot too. Give Ron Corser a call, 616-301-2581. Always a pleasure whenever we get the opportunity to check in. He's looking forward to hearing from you and helping you in any way he can.
Tune in to Ron Corser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncorser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.